Hello and welcome to the mini masterclass on the presenting issues of codependency. What do I mean by that? Let's have a look. So I have created this tree of codependency because very often, I get messages and clients come to me and they say, I struggle with low self-esteem, for example, or I struggle with being in unhealthy relationships. Help me have a healthy relationship, or help me feel good about myself. And we all focus on the leaves on the tree, okay? We focus on the presenting issues, the issues that, we kind of experience, the issues that are more visible, the issues we're conscious and aware of. With like a lack of boundaries, it's like, okay, let's learn some boundaries. It doesn't work, okay? The majority of people focus on presenting issues and trying to fix those presenting issues. In my opinion, you need to address the root cause of the presenting issues. It's almost like you can figure out a different way of dealing with a presenting issue, but it doesn't mean you're handling it. It doesn't mean you're making it go away. It just means you'll find a workaround. The root cause is still in place. It's like a weed, okay? So I remember that once upon a time, I was in a relationship with someone who was very precious about their lawn. So I learned a lot about taking weeds out properly. And it's not snipping off the leaves that you can see. It's about taking out the root of the weed so it doesn't grow back. And it's the same principle. We need to address the root cause, okay? So in codependency, there are loads and loads of different traits, different problems you're experiencing as a result of codependency. And many people focus on, the different leaves on the tree. So let's learn about boundaries. That's good, but that's later stage. You cannot learn how to set boundaries securely and confidently and with ease if you don't address the root cause, because the root cause is codependency. And that means you're disconnected from yourself. And if you're disconnected from yourself, you don't know how you feel, you don't really know what you want, you don't know how to express it, you don't really know what you need or why you are struggling. So learning a new communication technique on how to set better boundaries when you're missing the vital information on what boundary to set, where you begin and where another person ends, that kind of stuff. You need to address the root cause of codependency. There are certain elements to it that feed into it. What we're experiencing, like a lack of self-care, which I call self-neglect. People pleasing. Oh, I don't want to be a people pleaser anymore. You need to address your codependency issues, okay? That means your codependent conditioning, the way you think, what you believe, the way you behave, how you act. All of those things have to be addressed for the results, which are the leaves on the tree, to be different. They are outcomes, they are consequences, okay? So if you want to change a consequence, you need to address the root cause, which is codependency, okay? You want to get rid of self-doubt, and get rid of, being passive and always kind of accepting what is happening without taking action, without taking charge, without making your own decisions. If you want to give up perfectionistic tendencies and obsessing about things and being preoccupied with your partner, losing yourself in relationships, not having boundaries in place that will help you minimize emotional distress, it's really, really hard to feel good about yourself, to have healthy relationships. And so I'm always very big on knowing your presenting symptoms, knowing the traits, knowing the things you struggle with particularly, but understanding that just addressing those few issues is not going to resolve your core issue. And that means you save time and energy and possibly money in addressing the root cause, which consists of your codependent conditioning. Okay, so we have to go back to basics, uncover the beliefs, the codependent beliefs that keep us stuck in this cycle of codependency, and not get distracted by the leaves that, you know, might be colorful and they're visible and we directly seem to experience the negative consequences, but it is not the thing that is going to help us resolve our issues once and for all. So you need to find out about codependency. You need to use my 3-pillar model of codependency as your guide to know which issues to address, what to explore within yourself and within your relationships, and then find solutions that work for you. Okay? Solutions that feel right to you, that address what you are struggling with, that take into consideration your personality, your temperament, and you don't have to subjugate to any one person, any one institution, any one way of recovering yourself, recovering from codependency. It's about learning to do it your way, in a way that's logical, that makes sense, that's practical, that is applicable to your daily life, our daily routines. Okay, that's not out there and just, you know, airy fairy. You need to have a concrete method, you know, a system in place that helps you, that guides you reconnect with yourself and outgrow codependency. So that is my favorite term for it. It's not about, you know, fighting it, breaking it, smashing it, curing it like it's a disease. It's about outgrowing it. It is the thing we were taught when we were younger. It's the only thing we've ever known. And there is no shame in it. Because if things had been different, we would have been different, we would have developed differently. But it didn't happen. But now it can. And that's the wonderful thing, that even though, you know, we might not have had the childhoods that we wanted to have had, we might not have been taught the things we wish we had been taught, now is the time to do that. So we can outgrow codependency, and that is the best thing. So when I talk about addressing codependency, I talk about addressing the root cause. And in my 3-pillar model, the 3 main causes I've seen over and over and over again emerge when I deal with, you know, when I dealt with my own codependency, when I deal with codependent clients, is that there are 3 elements present, always, okay? And I would like go into more depth, and I will go into more depth in my Outgrow Codependency course, but this is what you need to know. The 3 pillars you need to focus on. Number 1, toxic shame. Our codependent conditioning gives rise to a lot of negative thoughts about ourselves. I'm a failure, I'm not lovable, I'm not enough, I'm a bad person, no one will ever love me, care about me, I'm a waste of space, I'm a waste of time. Lots of horrible thoughts, okay? They feel bad. When we get, you know, when we're in situations, we get evidence from the outside, we often interpret it so it feeds into toxic shame. It can be quite seductive to do that, quite addictive, to use everything or to interpret everything that comes our way, you know, since situations, conversations with people, problems, challenges, in a way that we look bad. It's evidence for why we're broken, defective, flawed, no good. It feels horrible because those are what I call lies of the mind. Okay? And then what happens is that we feel so bad, we have to disconnect from our feelings. We can numb, we can deny them, we can minimize them, we can invalidate them. We can do loads of different things to disconnect from our feelings, which is called experiential avoidance. So we're trying to avoid feeling our feelings. We're avoiding internal experiences, or we can try and avoid external experiences. Okay, so then if you, for example, always avoid conflict, you stay at home, you avoid taking risks, you avoid having difficult conversations. All those things go into experiential avoidance, which makes our life smaller, less enjoyable, less fulfilling. We grow less. So toxic shame and experiential avoidance work really well together because we don't want to have the painful feelings all of the time. But of course, experiential avoidance creates a different kind of uncomfortable feeling, a different kind of pain in its own right, because we're missing out on life, okay? Our development is stunted. The third part is focus inversion, which just kind of is a fancy word for not focusing inwards, but focusing outwards. Okay, so we're developing a strong external focus to be reconnected, to be secure in life, to be okay with your feelings, to know what you want, to meet your needs, to connect freely and lovingly to other people. You need to have a strong internal focus. Codependency teaches us all about the external focus. So that is what we have to address. That is what I address in all of my courses, one-on-ones, masterclasses, that it's all about learning to focus back to yourself. And that's the challenge, right? That all our life we've been focusing away because it's so painful to be us. It's so painful to have all these unmet needs. It's so painful to have been neglected, abused, treated badly, disrespected, been invisible. That's painful. And everything makes sense, right? That we focus away from ourselves to get our sense of self-worth, to feel like we're lovable, to feel like we're worth something, we're valuable in someone else's eyes. But for whatever reason in our childhood, that was not the response we got. We didn't get that message, so we couldn't internalize it. Instead, we developed toxic shame, which feels horrible, which stops us from meeting our needs, which stops us from focusing inside to see that we are lovable, we are enough. We can have an amazing life. We're worthy of being someone's friend. But because we don't have that external focus, we avoid ourselves more and more. We disconnect. We don't know how we feel. We don't know what we want. We don't know what we need. We just know we're experiencing distress and pain. And so, of course, that will strengthen our external focus. We want to be away from ourselves, want to focus away from ourselves. We don't want to be there for this horrible experience. And then, of course, there is more toxic shame because we're not there for ourselves. We're not looking after ourselves. We don't even like ourselves. Because how can you like someone if you don't know them? If you don't pay attention to them? And that's why I find that codependency is such an addictive, such an obsessive cycle that just keeps going until you become aware of those parts and start to address them. Until you can see that there is a different way of living, a different way of being, not just with yourself and in life, but also in your relationships. And that's where everything changes. So these kinds of experiences that I've had during my recovery have helped me to make sense of that cycle, and then to spot the different ways in which I was feeding right into that, so that I could become conscious of my choices and kind of break the cycle in different places. And in my work with my clients, I try and help them find the weakest link, where it's the easiest to break, because I don't believe that recovery has to be all horrible and hard and harsh and painful. It's about outgrowing it. That's a positive process. It's an empowering process. It's not about breaking yourself down and finding everything that's wrong with you and finding every skill you're lacking and every way in which you're flawed. That is definitely not recovering from codependency. That is feeding right into it. That is feeding right into toxic shame. That will make you want to avoid yourself even more. That will want you to focus away from yourself. Focus on someone else's problems. Rescue someone else. Take drugs, whatever. Just get away from this hellhole, which is your experience. So if you kind of tip recovery on its head and you say, okay, what we're going to do now is this. This is codependency. I know it exists. I know enough about it. And I'm sure you do. How do I get rid of it? How do I end it? How can I be healthy? How can I be my healthiest self? And that's what outgrowing codependency leads to. You become your secure self. So that's my process for, helping you outgrow codependency. That's the process I'm sharing with you. That's the process I have applied to myself. I'm using for my work with clients, and it's brilliant. Because instead of being dragged down even more into all the negativity and hopelessness and regret over the past, we're starting to create a life. We're starting to become the person we've always known we could be, right? There's always been this little voice within you, this little part that sometimes disappears, but you know it's there, that says it shouldn't be like this. I know it can be different. I wasn't just made to suffer. And I'm so glad that that part survived within me, because it helped me change everything. It was tiny and quiet and sometimes gone, and then it was angry, but I trusted it. I was like, yeah, that's right, it doesn't have to be like that. And I hope that me sharing my stories, me sharing my ideas, my opinions, my experiences will help you reconnect to that voice within you that knows you can do better, that knows life doesn't have to be like that for you. Okay? You need a little bit of empowerment in that way until you recognize it within yourself and you're like, yes, I'm done with this. No more bad boundaries, no more bad partner choices, no more unmet needs, no more feeling bad about myself. Done with that. And ready for what's next, for what's new. A good life, happy relationships, but most importantly, a secure self, right? We're going to focus on you. We're going to focus on the relationship you have with yourself, and that is the most important relationship you will ever have in your whole entire life. Whether you like to know it or not, I know I did not like that idea whatsoever, and yet it's the thing that kind of set me free. That liberated me from searching for the perfect person who would save me and make everything better and we'd live happily ever after. I don't need that. But the funny thing is, when you give up on that idea, you let go of the desperation and you start to see that you are creating your life. You are in charge of what's going to happen. That makes all the good stuff happen. That gives you the relationships you've always wanted. That helps you raise your children in a good and positive and healthy and loving way. That helps you take risks at work and get promoted. It's like the craziest thing ever. That just as you let go of the desperation to get something from the outside, to get your happiness from the outside, your self-worth, that's when it actually happens. Only now it doesn't mean as much because you already have your happiness, you already have your self-worth, you already have your confidence, your security. Yes, so basically that is why I'm sharing all of this with you, because I want you to get there too. It is definitely possible. So I hope that you will join me in Outgrow Codependency. Hope you'll follow and be part of our very inspiring and empowering community.